Atlas Shrugged. Ayn Rand. In this thought-provoking novel, Ayn Rand paints a dystopian picture of a United States in decline. As the country's economy deteriorates, society's most talented individuals mysteriously disappear one by one. Rand explores how rapid societal changes and uncertainty about the future transform people's lives. As traditional social structures break down, individuals must bear new economic risks and fears. The ineffectual politicians in power steadily lose control to global forces, fueling a sense of chaos and insecurity. Rand suggests that reason and moral purpose need to regain influence to bring order to society's turbulence. She argues that only solidarity on a global scale, with the most capable people working together, can reduce the uncertainty collectively faced in this nightmarish world. Through gripping dialogue and vivid descriptions, Rand dramatizes the conflict between individualism and collectivism. Atlas Shrugged raises timeless questions about the relationship between business, government, and society, challenging readers to reflect on morality and values in times of crisis. The novel's message transcends its period, providing insight into freedom, responsibility, and human progress that still resonates in today's changing world. If you enjoy my videos and find value in what I share, I kindly ask you to support the channel by hitting that like button and subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it would mean the world to me. Thank you. One, the mind on strike. The book opens with Eddie Willers, an employee of Taggart Transcontinental Railroad, asking an unnamed vagabond who is John Galt. This question is mysteriously spreading through the culture. We're introduced to Dagny Taggart, operating vice president of Taggart Transcontinental. The railroad is struggling due to economic decline across the country. Factories are closing, infrastructure is failing, and Taggart's system is deteriorating. Dagny's ineffectual brother James has taken over as president. Dagny hopes to revitalize the railroad with new track made of Reardon metal, an innovative metal alloy stronger than steel, developed by Henry "Hank" Reardon. But false promises from steel producer Orrin Boyle have left Dagny without rails. She calls on Hank Reardon to secure a vital order. Hank Reardon represents the skill and effort still fighting deterioration. He built his steel company from nothing through unrelenting focus and hard work. Now he triumphs with a metal that will transform industry. However, the State Science Institute disparages Reardon metal as unsafe. Francisco d'Anconia, a wealthy copper magnate and former classmate of Dagny's, acts strangely compared to his driven youth. He now spends recklessly and destroys his holdings. He warns Dagny of forthcoming economic collapse but won't explain his actions. More creative minds vanish, leaving companies directionless. The government proposes misguided measures like the Equalization of Opportunity Bill to limit business success. Without innovators and profit incentive, the economy tanks. As infrastructure crumbles, Dagny races to lay new Reardon metal track through Colorado to reach Ellis Wyatt's booming oil fields before her railroad fails. But the State Science Institute forces multiple delays in track construction. Wyatt's success contrasts other failing ventures like the San Sebastian line, built by Taggart Transcontinental in Mexico. Though risky, James Taggart pursues the Mexican line based on cynical political motives. Despite Dagny's warnings, James won't abandon his disastrous Mexican project. Rising disasters across Colorado highlight vanishing talent. When gifted contractor Ken Danager disappears, Dagny takes over finishing the line herself. The repeated question, "Who is John Galt?" underscores the mystery. Where are the brilliant minds, and why have they abandoned society? 2. Defiance of incompetence. With the rail line incomplete, Colorado industrialists like Ellis Wyatt desperately need Dagny Taggart to finish it and save their businesses. Wyatt issues an ultimatum: provide the transportation he needs in 9 months, or he will destroy the railroad when he goes down. The State Science Institute continues delaying construction by condemning Reardon metal as unsafe. Under pressure from Colorado businesses, Dagny defiantly prepares to lay track anyway. She vows to fight the incompetent bureaucrats and politicians destroying the country. When Dagny needs more Reardon metal urgently, Hank Reardon demands a high premium price. Though exploited, Dagny admires his pursuit of profit. She respects the transaction, contrasting it with the undeserved wealth of corrupt opportunists like James Taggart. Hank's family criticizes his focus on business, but he won't apologize for valuing his mills over their social circle. His wife Lillian especially resents his work, though she spends his money lavishly. At a wedding anniversary party, Lillian's intellectual friends spout anti-industrialist sentiments. Francisco d'Anconia tries warning Hank away from mining, hinting at his own self-destruction. But Hank won't be deterred from his purpose. Dagny also fruitlessly asks Francisco for explanations during a visit. Francisco alludes to coming destruction, but says Dagny isn't ready for the full truth. The equalization of opportunity. Bill moves forward, restricting business size. Railroad Alliance leader Dan Conway refuses to fight the legislation, though it will ruin him. Dagny is bewildered by the once successful Conway giving up without reason. Facing Dagny's deadline, Hank Reardon pushes himself relentlessly to pour the vital rail. Dagny lays track at a frantic pace across the mountains. They admire each other's skill and determination. Their shared joy contrasts the pessimism and lethargy around them. But mysterious disappearances continue as societal conditions worsen. When Ken Danager vanishes, null setbacks threaten finishing the line. Dagny feels the competent are being targeted for destruction. She works feverishly to combat the deliberate sabotage. Who is orchestrating the calculated collapse? Can Dagny save Colorado before society's engine stops? 3. The strike spreads. Dagny Taggart succeeds in saving Colorado and completing the John Galt line with Reardon metal. She triumphs over obstacles purposefully placed by unknown enemies. A vibrant new boomtown, Wyatt Junction, springs up around Ellis Wyatt's thriving oil fields, a sign of prosperity to come. But trouble brews elsewhere. The Phoenix-Durango Railroad, Taggart Transcontinental's rival, is forced to shut down under the anti-dog-eat-dog rule passed by the National Alliance of Railroads. Phoenix-Durango President Dan Conway quits, unwilling to fight the unjust law. This confuses Dagny, as fighting back had been Conway's skill. More business leaders vanish without explanation, leaving their companies to fail. The Mexican government seizes the San Sebastian mines from Francisco d'Anconia, revealing the mines as worthless. Francisco admits he expected this outcome. James Taggart fears Francisco has tricked and betrayed him for revenge. Francisco visits New York amidst uproar over the mine scandal. Hank Reardon worries Francisco's destructive actions will bring down Taggart Transcontinental, but Francisco is unconcerned, claiming he merely made an error. Dagny concludes Francisco wants to aid the looter's downfall by squandering his wealth. Night of January 22nd, the looter's laws are passed, imposing strangling new restrictions on businesses. Industrialists cave into public pressure rather than challenge the law's injustice. Dagny and Hank feel disgusted and isolated. More signs of collapse spread. Train wrecks multiply due to failing rail and engines. Copper supplies needed for Reardon metal become unavailable. The State Science Institute proclaims the unsafe nature of Reardon metal again. Dagny's brother James uses the orbiting Francisco to make insider stock deals. Dagny is repulsed by James's unearned wealth and unjustified power over Taggart Transcontinental. She vows to eventually reclaim the railroad from James and the looters. Hank Reardon's steel mills are hit by a new law forcing him to sell products at government-dictated lower prices. Hank refuses to comply. Rather than obey unjust laws, he and Dagny prepare to defend their rights and fight the system destroying them. 4. Revelation of the strike. Dagny Taggart and Hank Reardon defy unjust laws, refusing to surrender their companies or accept economic decline as inevitable. They believe fighting back will inspire similar rebellion against the looters controlling society. After suddenly disappearing months earlier, brilliant engine designer Quentin Daniels sends Dagny his research on a revolutionary new motor. But he refuses to continue the work that could revitalize industry and transportation. Dagny is bewildered by his inexplicable abandonment of this achievement. Seeking answers, Dagny flies her airplane through a massive storm to meet secretly with philosopher Hugh Axton, her last clue to the mystery. He reveals that the motor is the work of his former pupil, John Galt. Galt swore that he would stop the motor of the world given how humankind had exploited the competent people driving it forward. Axton directs Dagny to an abandoned factory in Wisconsin, where Galt and his allies have established their strike headquarters. There, Dagny finally meets the man who took the oath to stop the motor of the world. John Galt explains he helped creative minds go on strike against a society that enslaves them. Without profit or appreciation for their efforts, they refuse to let the incompetent leech off them anymore. Galt invites Dagny to join the strike and enjoy the just, rational existence the strikers have built for themselves, unfettered by moochers and power lusters. But Dagny is unconvinced, believing rational minds should fight back rather than abandon the world. She returns with renewed hope to retain the gifted like Hank Rearden. Dagny works feverishly to ready a new railroad line and rebuild infrastructure using revolutionary technology secretly developed by the strikers. However, political pressure against Rearden and ongoing shortages threaten the railroads. Dagny again turns to Galt's group, trying to obtain their technologies and recruit back their inventor minds. Though many talented ex-workers would return for Dagny, Galt prevents it, striving to honor the strikers' pact. Dagny is frustrated by his intransigence. The pull between Galt's rational philosophy and Dagny's desire to fix the broken world leaves her conflicted. She feels drawn to Galt, admiring his strength of purpose. Galt refuses to compromise or exempt Dagny, even as government collapse seems imminent. He vows loyalty to his strike comrades and their mission. As the competent disappear, Dagny works furiously to keep society functioning using the strikers' inventions. But Galt insists the implosion must run its course to wipe the slate clean. Dagny struggles to change his mind before the strike succeeds in stopping the motor of the world. Five, the final conflict. As the strike of the minds continues, society edges ever closer to complete collapse. With transportation failing, factories shutting down, and food supplies dwindling, riots and looting spread across the country. The incompetent leaders in government scramble to hold on to power amidst the chaos. Dagny Taggart and Hank Rearden return from Galt's Gulch to fight one final battle against the looters destroying the country. They see firsthand how their once thriving industrial heartlands have fallen into decay and disrepair. At the Taggart Transcontinental Railroad, trains are regularly derailed, empty factories line the tracks, and few shipments remain. Rearden Steel has been all but abandoned after the Equalization of Opportunity law forced Hank to divest ownership. Riding the last passenger train running on Taggart Transcontinental, Dagny is overwhelmed by the state of disintegration. At one station, she sees a small child rummaging in the garbage, skinny and frail with starvation. Dagny is recognized by a local worker who pleads with her to save them, but she can only promise to do the best she can. With armed guards now protecting the Taggart terminal against raging mobs, Dagny re-enters the headquarters of Taggart Transcontinental. She finds Jim and the other ineffective executives paralyzed by uncertainty. Francisco d'Anconia is also there, watching the dissolution with amusement. Though Dagny still feels lingering affection for him, she resolves to fight on without his help. Hank Rearden had regained temporary ownership of Rearden Steel to deliver a final order of rails to Dagny. But despite a Herculean effort, his mills lack the raw materials to finish the job. Realizing she cannot save Taggart Transcontinental, Dagny instead works to complete the John Galt line as a monument to the strikers. Dagny races against time to lay the last lengths of track for the line into Galt's Gulch. Midway through the work, she is confronted with the dead body of a starving child, left abandoned on the rails by a hopeless mother. Pushing forward in agony, Dagny completes the line seconds before government agents arrive to seize it. With the John Galt line finished, Dagny arranges for the final run of the railway's last working train. She rigs it to crash in a symbolic act of defiance and to provide a beacon for any others wishing to join the strike. At the front of the train, Dagny has inscribed a sign that reads, "From each according to his ability, to each according to his need." On the night before the final run, Francisco approaches Dagny one last time. Though she still feels betrayed by him, they reminisce about old times and share a private farewell. Dagny asks if he loves her, but Francisco merely looks at her with intense pain and bids her goodbye. The next day, with Reardon at her side, Dagny starts the locomotive on its final journey. As they gain momentum, Reardon reflects on how the motor represents the culmination of his life's work, now turned to destruction. The train accelerates toward its target, a tunnel securely barricaded by the government that will bring about a violent, fiery crash. At the last moment, with flames already engulfing the engine, John Galt appears to save Dagny and Hank. He tells them their fight is over, that it is time to retire from the world and join the strike. Though heartbroken by the state of the railway, Dagny feels joy and relief at abandoning her hopeless struggle to keep it alive. With the railroad's destruction, the last vestiges of functional society vanish. The incompetent leaders proclaim martial law amidst futile scrambles for power. Lawlessness and violence reign, with men motivated only by brute survival. When the tortured remains of the Taggart Bridge explode and collapse into the river, the government falls and the age of the looters comes to an end. Out of the ashes, John Galt and his fellow strikers emerge to chart a new course for mankind. Having secretly assembled all the necessary resources and talent, they are fully prepared to construct a new society based on reason, purpose, and mutually beneficial exchange. Their great challenge will be to create a moral code for living on Earth that rejects sacrifice and upholds individual rights and happiness. With the slate wiped clean, they can finally build a world where each person is free to achieve his or her full potential. 6. The Way Forward. With the collapse of the looter society, John Galt and the strikers waste no time in rebuilding the world according to their ideals. Having planned and prepared for this moment, they move swiftly to establish their new order. The talented individuals who withdrew from the old world now return to put their skills into practice. Farmers, engineers, scientists, and businessmen take their places to construct a rational civilization. A tri-level social structure is formed. At the top are the philosophers who develop knowledge, in the middle are the individuals who apply it practically, and at the base are the unskilled workers who benefit from the thoughts and labor of the mind. The new capital is quickly built amidst the ruins of the old society. Skyscrapers rise, factories hum with activity, power lines light up across the land. For the first time, goods are produced not by forced labor, but by free individuals independently contracting their services. A free market system is established, where production and trade are controlled by voluntarily agreed deals rather than government force. Equal rights for all are enshrined in law, with no person granted special privileges. Justice is administered objectively to protect each individual from violence and fraud. But charity and unearned support are banished as immoral. Each person is expected to think, produce, and find rewards through their own merits alone. Culture and entertainment flourish, freed from the control of political pull. Without grants or handouts, artists create for commercial gain and public approval. The most talented rise to the top, as competition kills off inferior work. Out of this liberty, a golden age of thought, writing, and art arrives. Geniuses, no longer untethered, are motivated to push the bounds of human capability ever higher. As prosperity returns, Galt's Gulch expands across the continent. New settlements arise for those sharing the philosophy of reason, purpose, and pride in achievement. Dagny Taggart helps build a thriving new railroad to connect them, but vows never to sacrifice her system to the incompetent or unworthy. Though society is rebuilt on principles of free association, John Galt does not force his system on anyone. The old looters are left free to wallow in their own failure and to see the contrast for themselves. A few learn from their errors and humbly petition to join Galt's growing revolution. But many sink back into their aimless ways, living a subsistence existence on the fringes of the new civilization. As the months pass, life takes on the sense of joyful purpose that the strikers once envisioned. With each day they continue to reclaim the world and remake it properly, yet challenges remain on the horizon. The guardians must stay vigilant against compromising their ideals or submitting to the calls of sacrifice. They must prove the moral system they created can withstand all tests. And they must keep lighting the way forward for others who share their philosophy of rational enlightenment. Though steeped in idealism, Galt does not view his rule as a utopia. He sees struggle and suffering ahead, but with rewards greater than any the limited looter's world could offer. by relying on reason rather than brute force, appealing to merit not depravity, and trading through mutual benefit, the new society will unleash mankind's full, untapped potential. Step by step, each new achievement will take them closer to their vision of a world where all prosper by pursuing their own happiness. Recap. At its core, Atlas Shrugged is a philosophical statement on how one should live their life. Through the juxtaposition of its heroes and villains, the book extols the virtues of reason, purpose, and ambition. It argues that rationality, not emotion, is the proper means of making decisions and advancing society. Having goals and driving towards them gives fulfillment, while drift and lack of self-direction lead to misery. And it contends that justice demands each person reap the rewards or punishments they deserve based on their merit and productivity. The story rejects traditional ethics based on self-sacrifice for others, instead championing rational self-interest. The individual's right to pursue their own happiness is paramount. Each person should think independently, produce value from their natural talents, and trade the results freely to mutual benefit. Just as the heroes withdraw their minds from society rather than support the undeserving, the book preaches moral self-reliance and refusal to sanction the immoral. On a societal level, Atlas Shrugged advocates a comprehensive laissez-faire capitalist system with no government interference. It sees the profit motive and competition as positive forces that weed out the incompetent and reward the able. Charity and unearned benefits are condemned as promoting failure and leeching off the strong. The book praises individual liberty and freely chosen collaboration. It warns that dictatorship and mob rule are the natural end results when this freedom is violated. Running throughout is an exaltation of the human mind and its power to shape nature and improve lives. The creator, the thinker, the inventor are society's heroes and drivers. The book despises those who denigrate the intellect and achievement. It posits that reason can resolve man's problems on earth if given free rein. In essence, Atlas Shrugged presents an idealized philosophy for living rooted in rationality, individualism, justice, and the liberation of mental power. It aims to inspire the realization of human potential. Recommended readings. For those moved by the powerful philosophy of Atlas Shrugged, I would urge you to further explore its themes of individualism, reason, and capitalism through these impactful books. Start with Ayn Rand's provocative companion novels, The Fountainhead and Anthem. See how she warns of society crushing the free mind and envisions a dystopia where individuality is banned. For a chilling take on totalitarian collectivism destroying the individual, read Orwell's 1984 or Huxley's Brave New World. Hayek's classic, The Road to Serfdom, shows how government control of the economy slides into tyranny. To better understand the logic and morality behind free market capitalism advocated in Atlas Shrugged, study thinkers like Friedman in Capitalism and Freedom, and Hazlitt in Economics in one lesson. For lessons on persevering through hardship with purpose and meaning, look to Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Like Hank Rearden and Dagny Taggart, we must be prime movers driven by our reason, intellect, and pursuit of achievement. Through these books, continue the fight for freedom and individual happiness. Resist those who demand the sacrifice of mind and talent to the undeserving, and kindle the fire of progress and enlightenment, benefiting all through science, technology, and free enterprise. Much work remains to create a society where each person can flourish, but press on as they did.